Hi everyone, I'm here again, and I'd like to share this video because sometimes you can think about your English, and if you are a B1 level and you want to become a B2 level, that's an interesting video to watch. Because when you are B1, you can have communication to others, you can communicate to them, you can explain your ideas, but to explain more your ideas deeply or your strategy, maybe you want to face your bosses in some meeting, right? And you need to discuss your ideas, your strategy to them. That's a good thing, a good moment to explain your ideas, and it's important to have a B2 level in your English in this case. So that's why it's important to think what is your strategy for today to start your exercises to become a B2 level, right? So that's why it's important. Watch this video, listen what Aleksandra shared in this video, right? Because there are many and good things to learn. Okay, enjoy this video.
Alexandra, let me ask you a question here that I think all people would like to ask about that. And I think here, in my case, right, Brazilian, and the other Brazilian students or Brazilian speakers or Brazilian people that are learning English or they think like I thought uh, about my English. I speak English and it's okay. I have been speaking English at my work with my colleagues and it's okay. But I had some experience, and that I understand that's not okay. Just in my case, a B1. But how how long, right? I can do that. How the time, right? The people will say, right? To be a beginner, it's short, but B1 to B2 or C1, the intermediate is longer. It's totally different. And for sure, I think you have a course, and your course is specific to B1 level, right, students.
That's right.
That's important. That's my case. How you can solve this problem, our problem, right? In my case, the problems who is B1 level and would like to become B2 and C1, the next step. Uh,
That's
what is
right.
the time, right? That moment. Would you like to know that?
There is such a thing as CEFR, Common European Framework of Reference, which shows levels, right? It's like from A0, A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2. And there is a good resource. The website is called www.ef.com, where you can actually see the amount of hours, the number of hours that takes you to go from one level into another. Of course, that's approximate because every person is different, every student is different. And again, some people learn better with their eyes, others with their ears, and others with a combination of those skills. But still, in a nutshell, that'll take you, for example, in your case, if you were a B1 or B2, that'll take you about like 200 to 250 hours. Therefore, you can, do your math and see how long it will take you to get to the level that you need to get. And by the way, also pay attention on the 4 skills. So whether you want to improve your speaking English or whether you want to work on your listening skills or maybe you need to write as well. So that all counts. Okay. Therefore, I might say that for you, that'll be 200 to 250 hours. But again, that's, sometimes it might take faster if you learn every day, or in your case, if you're busy, then you might not learn English every day. But also another question is how you train, how you're learning, how you're going to learn English. If you want to improve you have mentioned that you have, you've been working with native speakers all the time, and some of the native speakers come from Great Britain. So then I might say that I would suggest listening to British native speakers, and I would work on the listening skills the most. So I would start with shadowing technique, of course, and also um, don't forget about chunking, like we did last week. Chunking means breaking long speech into meaningful groups of words, and for example, like instead of hearing like one long sentence, we just hear it in parts. And then don't look at the sentence or don't look at the text right away. Just try to listen, pause and repeat after the speaker. And then you might take a look at the text and you might see that, oh, I actually know those words, but then why am I not hearing them? So then you will see that your improvement will become much more faster when you start training your ear. We call it train your ear. So for you, Marcelo, I think I would suggest that shadowing would be number one technique to go for. That's my that's my takeaway.
Brilliant, brilliant. Well,
And I would also like to mention that thank you for mentioning the course that we put together, because the course that we put together actually contains the Socratic method of learning. And you might inquire more in our course description about this method. And we have also incorporated the linking blocks method. That's the way to learn grammar. That's the way we structure our sentences. And what is even most important thing is that we incorporated into our course the listening method, which is, in my personal opinion, is one of the most effective and efficient ways to study and to train. The course doesn't only suggest that you learn 90 plus, idioms and words and expressions and all of that, but also you will develop a habit of hearing how native speakers speak, and you will develop that habit of speaking and being able, excuse me, being able to deliver the information or your ideas clearly, because the course is actually recorded by a native speaker from Canada, Jeff Feldman, who is my colleague, and myself. And even though I was born in Ukraine, I've had a lot of experience working in Canada. I've studied in the United States, so I communicate with native speakers a lot, all day, almost every day. And we have built this course primarily for the students who've reached that plateau, so they will learn idioms and they will expand their vocabulary, but most importantly, they will train their ears so that they will develop a habit of hearing native speakers all the time and being able to reproduce, their own thoughts. So we are also, well, right now at this point, we have our speaking club, and those students who are with us, they can also come and visit and have their experience like communicating with native speakers, in person, basically. And I think that that's also another very strong method, is when if you need to talk and with a native speaker, then you will have that chance, because that's exactly what we do at our speaking club. The students are able to I would say, that's their cold shower when they hear and when they communicate with a native speaker, and then they just stop being afraid